The other night, the family and I had just finished watching Beetlejuice. Such a classic movie. Somehow, some way after the movie, we were talking and the conversation turned to how frugal or cheap I am. I mean, the family had a great time making fun of me, giving me grief about sneaking around them and raising the thermostat to 78 degrees during the summer and all the other things I do to save a buck. We all laughed at my expense. It was a good time. At the same time, I reminded them of a quote from Gary Vee. Frankly, there are just times when someone else says exactly what you want to say, but they just say it so much better than you can say it. So here's what Gary Vee said.
The single biggest thing, in my opinion, that the majority of these people in this room are doing wrong. This is number one. I believe that 98% of the people in this arena right now buy too much dumb.
While saving money is one of the most important things you can do, what you do with those savings is what can change your life. Far too often, I see stackers of gold and silver make this incredible shift to living within their means, saving more money, and using those savings to convert it from fiat into real wealth in the form of gold and silver, only to turn around and buy what I would call dumb stuff. I'll explain that in a second, but before we dive in, every so often I feel like I need to give you a disclaimer to a video. My goal isn't to offend anyone or upset you, but we need to talk about this. Nothing drives me crazier about our current culture than this quote, putting it on the gram nonsense. For those that aren't familiar, this is kind of this facade and the fake lives that so many people put out there on their social media, trying to convince people about their lives and how amazing it is. As Gary Vee asked, who are you living for?
Who the f you flossing for? Because everybody's fake lifing on Instagram. They don't want to go hiking. They just want to get a couple more likes on Instagram.
Instead of spending their energy making sure they are richly living life, they rather look like they're rich. They just want to be on MTV Cribs even if they have to rent the crib. I bring this up because I see so many stackers on social media showing off all their overpriced and ridiculously expensive gold and silver coins and bars so they can get likes. I mean, if likes were dollars, maybe it would be worth it. I'll share a variation of something Grandma used to say about ifs. She said, if cucumbers were ice cream, your butt would fit in your jeans. That aside, this doing it for the gram mentality can be harmful to your stacking as it can influence the way you buy. The reality is, a picture of a gold-proof buffalo will get way more likes than a gold bar in an assay, even though the price difference in premium is more than the $200. And you already know you won't make that money back on your premium. Like I said, if likes were dollars, you might be onto something, but they aren't. Here's the reality. Real stacking is like being in a good long-term relationship. It's kind of boring. As Chris Rock said, all good relationships are boring. The only exciting relationships are bad ones. One proof, Will Smith and Jada Smith. It's exciting to watch, but none of us want to be in that kind of relationship. Pause for a moment and think about some of the stackers you watch on here on YouTube and what those creators show and buy. Now think about the channel like 2 is 1, who I believe is quietly one of the most successful stackers out there. Think about what he stacks and what he shows on camera. Overwhelmingly, a majority of it are boring stacks of eagles and buffaloes. Yes, he has some beautiful high premium coins, but those are his fancy items. And 1, they're the exception to his stack. 2, they were purchased after a decade or more of him buying at least a quarter ounce of gold every month. And 3, as he said in one video, these are items he bought to make his video displays more interesting on YouTube. Use that Chris Rock analogy. All good and successful stackers have stacks that are boring, while those with the most exciting stacks filled with all the cool new coins are probably not as successful. As Gary Vee said, 90% of the people buy too much dumb stuff, which leads me to the 4 types of gold or silver I will never, ever buy. Simply because when it comes to stacking, these items classify as dumb stuff.
And let me give you very basic truths. If you spend money on shit you don't need, you're gonna lose. If you buy those things to impress other people, you've already lost. You need to take a step back and understand what you're doing.
Ask yourself, what are you doing? Now, before you get offended, especially if you purchase some of these items, remember, this is just my list. You do you, boo-boo. I just call it as I see it. I can't wait to see the analytics of how many people click away after I share the first one, which is gold backs. This is one of the hokiest things I've ever seen in my mind. Don't get me wrong, I love the idea of gold and silver as money, but this idea in a fiat world that I'm going to willingly trade any type of my gold, even if it's 1/1000th of an ounce of gold, when I could use worthless fiat is insanity to me. Let me see. I'm supposed to take my fiat, spend it on buying gold backs just so I can transact in gold backs? I know Utah, Wyoming, Oregon, some other states recognize gold back as currency and et cetera, but let me ask you this. Do you want more or less gold in your possession? So help me understand why you would do this then. I mean, if we were all getting paid in gold backs or if the whole system were playing by the same rules, that would be different. Also, have you calculated the premiums on these things? They are in excess of 100%. Come on, y'all. Do what you want, but I will never, ever buy a gold back. Next on my list is fractional silver or platinum, with the exception of constitutional or junk silver. The fractional silver or platinum made my list because I'm against fractional gold or silver, I'm against exorbitant premiums. When it comes to gold, my general rule is stack whatever you can afford, but don't buy anything smaller than 1/10 of an ounce, because stacking something is better than not stacking anything at all, even with the higher premiums. However, what the market does to people who buy fractional silver and platinum is beyond belief. For example, a 1 gram platinum bar is around $75, but that carries 162% premium, while a 1/10 silver coin carries a 217% premium. The amount spot has to increase in order for you to make your premium back is insane. You're just better off saving up your money and then buying when you can get your premium back to a reasonable range of 10 to 15%. The math just ain't mathing for me, so therefore I will never, ever buy fractional platinum or silver. The third item on the list is gold and silver shot and dental gold. Unless you're smelting and making your own coins or bars, just stay away. I know it's kind of cool to look at or to feel it run through your hands, and the premiums aren't that bad. In fact, there are a good number of times you can actually buy these items for close to spot, but that's because they're just such a pain to resell. Selling these items peer-to-peer is almost impossible, which means you'll have to go back to your LCS who doesn't really want them either. While your money is made when you buy, the math of the transaction has to drive your decision making, and the selling side of the equation makes it a no-go for me. This is why I will never, ever buy shot or dental gold or silver. Finally, let's talk about foreign junk silver. I already made an exception for constitutional silver, and here I'm going to exclude Canadian junk silver. Almost every coin shop I've been to has a bowl or a big old jar of old coins from all over the world, and these coins are cheap. I mean, like melt price. As an aside, sometimes there's some confusion over the difference between melt and spot price. Spot price is what metals cost at the moment. It's what you see on the daily tickers, while melt price is the value of the metal in a particular coin. This distinction is part of what makes all the foreign coins so challenging, because you need to know the percentage of silver in each of these coins, and there's a lot of variance. The only reason why I make an exception for Canadian junk silver is because it's all 80% silver, and in fact, it's actually easier to calculate the value of Canadian junk compared to US junk silver. Foreign junk silver, like shot and dental metals, really limit your number of future buyers, which makes getting out of these coins much harder, meaning your LCS is the buyer of last resort, and they don't really want it either, because if they did, they wouldn't be storing it in their shop like it was a jar full of pennies. That's why I will never, ever buy foreign junk silver. Before you get in the comments and let me know how I offended you or how what I said was wrong, please remember this is just my list. You're the architect of your life, and you decide what works for you, and these 4 things are items that just don't work for me. Ultimately, I'd rather see you stacking something rather than nothing, even if it's less than optimal in my opinion. The goal of this video was to remind you of the importance of not buying stuff, as Gary Vee points out. This starts with your fiat dollars because you want to do everything in your power to turn that paper money into real money and real assets. I just don't want to see you do all these smart things when it comes to minimize expenses and spending, only to turn around and buy dumb stuff when it comes to your stacking. In the comments section, what is the dumbest purchase, or maybe one that you regret, that you've made when it comes to metals? What items should someone never buy? Or simply put an A+ in the comments to let everyone know that you always stack smarter and never stop learning.